make us to. We're going to jump into Anki. What are the 9 sections and 9 subsections of Chapter 4 Embrace Difficulties? How learning occurs, encoding, consolidation, retrieval, extended learning, updating retrieval cues. Easier isn't better, how effort helps, reconsolidating memories, broadening mastery, improving versatility, priming the mind for learning, fostering conceptual learning. What am I missing? Reconsolidating memories, broadening mastery, improving versatility, priming the mind for learning, fostering conceptual learning. Did I say broadening mastery? Reconsolidating memories, broadening mastery. Reconsolidating memories, broadening mastery, fostering conceptual learning, improving versatility, priming the mind for learning. Damn it, dude, what the fuck am I forgetting? Other learning strategies that incorporate desirable difficulties. Failure and the myth of errorless learning, an example of generative learning. Undesirable difficulties to take away. What am I forgetting, bro? Creating mental models. What does Chapter 3 mix up your practice about in one sentence? Chapter 3 mix up your practice. It's really about how space practice, interleaved practice, varied practice are more effective than easy mass practice, fluent easy mass practice. They lead to more learning, discrimination skills, etc. Spacing, interleaving, and variation feels harder, but can produce longer lasting learning than easy, fluent mass practice. I'm saying good. What is dynamic testing? Dynamic testing is basically where you're testing, discovering your weaknesses, training / working to improve your weaknesses, and then testing again to see how you improved, really. What does the main point of Chapter 6 get beyond learning styles in one sentence? The main point is basically that the traditional view of learning styles is a myth, and that there are other learning differences / cognitive differences that do matter. I think there's 6 of them. Yep. Okay. What is structure building? Structure building is essentially distilling down a concept or subject into its main points or patterns and meaningfully connecting these main points and patterns. Rule learning is essentially finding the underlying steps or patterns in solving particular problems rather than memorizing examples. Good. What is successful intelligence? Successful intelligence is really about the idea that there's different attributes of intelligence and different aspects of intelligence, and that one's different aspects are developed through the environment that encourages and rewards specific intelligence for the environment that you develop and live in. Okay. What are the 3 aspects of intelligence according to Sternberg? Practical, analytical, and creative. What are the 6 learning differences that matter that were discussed in Chapter 6 get beyond learning styles? Basically, the degree to which you take responsibility for your own learning, the degree of structure building, degree of rule learning, your beliefs about yourself and your abilities, reading and language skills, and fluency and intelligence. What are the 7 sections of Chapter 7 increase your abilities? Neuroplasticity is IQ mutable. Brain training. That's all I remember. Growth mindset, deliberate practice, memory cues to take away. What are the 9 sections, 9 subsections of Chapter 4? Embrace difficulties. How learning occurs. Encoding, consolidation, retrieval. Extended learning, updating retrieval cues. Easier isn't better. How effort helps. Reconsolidating memories, broadening mastery, creating mental models, improving versatility, priming the mind for learning, fostering conceptual learning. And then other learning strategies that incorporate desirable difficulties, failure in the myth of errorless learning. Example of generative learning, undesirable difficulties to take away. Finally, what are the 7 sections of Chapter 7? Increase your abilities. Neuroplasticity is IQ mutable. Brain training. Growth mindset. The takeaway. Deliberate practice, memory cues. Okay, before I do this one again. What is the main point of Chapter 3? Spacing, interleaving, and varying practice feels more difficult, but is more effective and leads to more learning than easy, fluent mass practice. Okay, there we go. I forgot to say the feels more difficult part. What are the 7 sections and 7 sections of Chapter 7? Increase your abilities. Neuroplasticity is IQ mutable. Brain training, growth mindset, memory cues. No, deliberate practice, memory cues to take away. Boom. We're done with Honky. So, what I'm going to do now is jump into reading Chapter 7, and then I'm going to be back to recalling a bit. Or what did I just read about? I just read the introduction to Chapter 7. We read about hold on, there was something there. I'm forgetting the first part. We read about mnemonics and memory athletes. Those will be discussed. Memory athletes, mnemonics, memory techniques, cognitive strategies. That will be discussed in this chapter. This chapter is really largely about increasing intelligence, neuroplasticity, and ways to get more cognitive power out of your, like strategies to get more cognitive horsepower out of your current brain and intelligence. However, they say intelligence is not fixed. The brain is not hardwired. They used an analogy of the early United States as or a metaphor for the early brain. Both held lots of potential. The early brain holds lots of potential. The early United States, had a lot of resources, but to get information from coast to coast in the 1800s, they had to ride a mule 6,000 miles, and it was really slow. And so our genes that the authors say give us our potential, but it's the experience and learning that actually bring about the materialization of that potential through learning mental models and deliberate practice. And analogously for the country, it was building the roads and the telephone lines and the ports and the streets and everything else that goes into the infrastructure, the cities and the farms and everything else. You think that's all the main ideas? Yep. Yep. What was I forgetting? We started out with the marshmallow study. How does that relate to this chapter, the marshmallow study? Right. That's kind of what they were trying to relate. The marshmallow study was basically a nursery school student was sat down in a room with basically nothing except for a platter, a silver tray with a marshmallow on it, and they said, if you wait 15 minutes, you'll get another marshmallow, or you can eat this now. Your choice. You can either have one now or two in 15 minutes. And most of the kids just ate it right away or didn't make it. They talked about the kids that didn't make it ended up like distracting themselves, closing their eyes, playing games with themselves, singing, talking to themselves, whatever they could do to distract themselves. This ended up being correlated later with the students or the school children, the nursery students who were able to resist the temptation and wait 15 minutes to get another one, which only 1/3 did. They ended up in a long-term follow-up study ended up being performing better in school and career. And so the authors make this point. I really respect these authors as far as what they understand about the science of learning. However, I don't necessarily respect them so much on their understanding of nature versus nurture, and maybe even neuroscience, to be honest. And yeah, nature and nurture. That's more philosophical. It's still scientific, but the point they were making with the marshmallow study is like, look, the children who were able to distract themselves ended up being more more successful in their school and career. So look, it's not just your genes, it's how you use your body and how you use your brain, and the techniques you develop, such as distracting yourself. Yeah, it could be a lot more nuanced than that, though. You could look into, well, is there a genetic component to discipline and willpower and being able to distract yourself? Oh, come on. I would say yeah. Yeah, there probably is. Very good chance. So it's hard to say with nature and nurture things. Like the marshmallow study. It's like, well, look, this happened, but we can't say for certain how much of that happened because of genes or because of experience in nurture. So it's a cool study. I don't really necessarily completely agree with their logic and their logical conclusion in tying it into this chapter, but I think we read a little faster today, which is all right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4.5 pages. It's a little faster, but ever since learning about structure building, it's like, yeah, maybe I am getting too caught up on the details. I don't know. I'm getting too caught up on the details. I don't know. I've been going very slowly and methodically. Do I need to be as methodical as I am, or do I just need to get the main points, try to answer the questions I have and not focus so much on the extraneous details? I think there's benefits to doing lots and lots of details and recall because it gives you more points, right? It gives you more anchors to connect new knowledge on, and it kind of is like a compounding effect. But we don't want just a ton of information. We want the most important, valuable information and understanding, right? That was kind of the idea with the low structure builders, having too much information, too much irrelevant information, and that's why they end up having worse learning results. So, yeah. Maybe the learning system is potentially evolving again right now. It's been in a continuous state of evolution for like 4.5 years, something like that, but really more like 7 years. But that's it for today. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. See you.